Dubai. Spectacular skyscrapers up to the clouds, huge amusement parks and luxury malls galore, and of course, influencers and the mega rich everywhere. But behind the dazzling facade of this ultra-modern city, there lies a grim reality that only a few know. Today, we want to show you the shocking truth about Dubai, the metropolis that emerged from the sand. We will give you an insight into a city that goes over corpses, and by that we don't just mean people, but also nature and the environment. We also have an exciting kidnapping story of a real princess, and we will also show you one of the most questionable men in the world. It's going to be an interesting ride, so stay tuned here at Wonderlane. Oh, and write us in the comments if you have ever been to Dubai and what you thought of the place. We are curious. Before we get to the dark side of Dubai, let's take a brief look at the history of the metropolis. As already mentioned, Dubai was created virtually from nothing, because from a small fishing village from the 19th century, a huge metropolis was pulled up, which became the largest commercial center of Asia due to its ideal positioning in the Persian Gulf. The city, which is one of the 7 Emirates, now has not only the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa, but also the largest mall, the highest water fountain, and so on. Dubai simply loves to win, and so the city, where you pay 0% income tax, also attracts the beautiful and the rich. After all, the Arab city has the highest density of millionaires. An incredible 68,000 of them live here. More and more influencers, such as Simon Dezu or the Harrison family, are also flocking to the metropolis where the temperatures can reach 40 degrees. In fact, in addition to tax savings, they can also enjoy other benefits and receive financial and material support, especially when they post positive stories about Dubai, because the image of the luxury city is starting to crumble massively. Let's start with the first little-known downside of Dubai, and that is the incredible damage that Dubai and all its construction projects cause to nature and the environment. In fact, most of the building permits for major projects in Dubai are based on arbitrary decisions by the sovereign ruler, Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, and he is not very particular about environmental compatibility and sustainability. For example, one of the most shocking projects is the construction of the Palm Islands. In total, Dubai has artificially constructed 3 of the islands since 2001, although not even the first one, Palm Jumeirah, has been completed. But the absolute worst thing about it, the islands were built on huge coral reefs, burying all the colorful life in them alive under the sand. In addition, large tankers have sucked up the sand from the seabed for the filling of the islands, whereby countless sea creatures were simply destroyed here as well. The islands were only built as a show-off construction without being really well thought out. For example, the seawater inside the palm tree is of extremely poor quality, as it can no longer circulate through the breakwater islands. In short, it is simply stale, stinks, and can even be hazardous to health. But that's not all, because the islands are in danger of disappearing completely once again. Actually, the sand accumulation sinks by a whole 5 millimeters every year, which means that sooner or later, the absurd project will again belong entirely to the sea. Moreover, scientists have calculated that due to the rise in sea level, Dubai and its islands will eventually be completely submerged anyway. But the artificial islands are only part of the other questionable construction projects that the city has implemented. For example, the Burj Khalifa is not connected to the public sewer system, creating an extremely foul-smelling problem. Not only the tower, but also entire districts of the city do not have proper sewage systems. Because of this, millions of trucks have to pump out the waste collected in tanks and drive it to sewage treatment plants outside of the city. And because this is such an unimaginable amount, the city of superlatives has also set a record here, although it is not exactly enviable. Namely, that of the longest continuous chain of trucks and daily kilometer-long traffic jams. Another problem with this is that drivers are on the road for hours just to move one load, but they are paid per trip, not per hour, which sometimes makes it unclear how many of the loads actually end up at the designated treatment plants, since many of the drivers simply unload the waste into nature. But even this is only one piece of the puzzle of the environmental sins that Dubai commits on a daily basis. If you look look at the many skyscrapers, the up to 12-lane highways, and other abstruse ideas in total, you get another sad record. The city actually has the largest ecological footprint in the world, yet just 3 million people live here. But there are other areas of life that really give a frightening view of Dubai. After all the buildings and construction projects have to be implemented by someone. The glittering city attracts migrants from all over Asia. 2 million people from India alone work here, but they are not supposed to experience much of the luxury, because as soon as the workers get off the plane, they have to hand over their passports to their employer. This means that they not only lose all rights, but they are also only allowed to stay on the construction site or in their quarters. The workers actually have a working day of mostly 12 hours under sometimes inhumane conditions. There is also not much attention paid to work safety, resulting in at least 880 deaths a year on construction sites in Dubai. If a worker gets injured, he actually has to take care of his recovery himself, which means he has to pay the medical bills himself. Unfortunately, the average worker's income is just $260 a month, so many workers have to take out loans from their employers and work for many years for even less money, or even for free, just to recoup the costs incurred. Also, their life in the workers' quarters could probably not be in any greater difference to the luxury apartments of the other inhabitants. In fact, the migrant workers lived crammed into rundown houses and with little or no salary rely on donations from outsiders because they can't even afford food. They cannot go back, firstly because of their lack of passports, and secondly because they have no money for the return flight. In summary, one could say that Dubai was built on the shoulders of modern slave labor. Human rights organizations such as Human Rights and Amnesty International have become aware of the poor conditions and have intervened. The frightening consequence that Dubai has drawn from this, they have simply expelled the members of these organizations from the country, and as a result, there is now not a single human rights organization left in Dubai. The penalties and violations of the law are also much higher in Dubai than in other Muslim countries. There are custodial or torture sentences which are absolutely commonplace in Dubai. The media are also strictly monitored, including the use of social media. Statements critical of the government often end up in prison or even with lashes as well. Other crimes in the emirate include homosexuality, drinking alcohol in public, or cohabitation of unmarried couples, just to name a small selection. But Dubai does not only violate all human rights of foreigners, but also in their own ranks there are repeated tortures, deprivations of liberty, and deadly punishments. One of these stories shows above all what a questionable person the ruler of Dubai, Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, is, who probably is one of the main culprits for the conditions in Dubai. This story revolves around the fate of his daughter, Latifa. At the age of 17, she tried to escape from her father's clutches and her oppressed life for the first time. Above all, the life of the woman in the palace resembles a life of constant imprisonment and oppression. In fact, Latifa was recaptured by her father's men during her first escape attempt and subsequently beaten up several times over several hours before being returned to her golden cage. In fact, the now 36-year-old planned many more escape attempts. This was also the case in 2018 by means of a video message that went around the world and was clicked on over 4 million times. She reported on the cruel deeds of her father, which he had his servants carry out, and described him as an evil person. She also said that she will either escape or something very, very bad will happen, and that this might be the last video you ever see of her. A last sign of life has been received from the Sheikah in 2019 through a smuggled cell phone. In it, she reports that the palace has been remodeled for her in such a way that she not only no longer has contact with the outside world, but also has to live in complete darkness.
I'm in a villa. I'm a hostage, and this villa has been converted into a jail. All the windows are barred shut. I can't open any window.
Photos were actually published in 2021 showing Latifa in Spain in freedom. But many doubt the authenticity of the photos because in the year 2000, a princess from Dubai disappeared before, from which one never heard a sign of life again. Dubai is a sad example of what happens when human rights and environmental protection are completely disregarded in favor of a few powerful and rich people. But even apart from that, Dubai exemplifies many questionable aspects of modern capitalism. For example, the pursuit of more luxury and material wealth, the glorification of celebrities, and the censorship of critical opinions. But what do you think of Dubai? How do you see the city and its machinations? Write us your opinions in the comments and like this video if you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time here at Wonderlane.